For a third day, wildfires sweeping through parts of Los Angeles. Block after block, there is nothing but ash.
Breaking news where U.S. President Donald Trump has signed tariffs on America's top trading partners.
These supply chains will have a profound impact on inflation, on the well-being of U.S. households.
We are seeing very significant demand for Maven, both in and outside of America.
Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success.
More than a summer's worth of rain fell in a matter of hours, triggering unprecedented flash flooding.
After Russia launched another major overnight attack
on that country's energy infrastructure.
China's largest military display.
Clear showcase of power.
The government shutdown stretches into a fresh new week.
And the path forward is unclear.
Sound the alarm that Silicon Valley and the West have lost their way.
If you're in favor of this world order, what have you built that works? We are in a software-defined world, and the nation that leads software is the USA.
Please welcome co-founder and chief executive officer at Palantir, Dr. Alex Karp.
Well, I always realized I'd be accused of something, but this is the flashing lights. Well, delighted to be here, delighted to have you here. Delighted to be in New York, where I was born, a great city. We are mercilessly and proudly patriotic. That's obvious. But I think one of the things that is often implicit in why we've been in our success, and that we really came to see as a huge advantage when we moved into commercial, primarily U.S. commercial, was, when we went to the government in the beginning, it was the FBI, the CIA, and ended up being Special Operations Command. We had this very, very naive idea that because we were patriotic, we would just build things that work, where we would absorb the value creation responsibility, meaning the risk that we would provide more value for these incredibly special people than what they could pay us. That germ of an idea is actually probably the single most radical thing we ever did. It went from PG, which is the Intel product. Actually, the architecture of that product, the security model, and our interactions with NLP technology really, years later, gave us insights that were really important for building ontology. Actually, the original ontology precursor was patented, I think, by Bob McGrew and Aki Jain, two very famous technologists. One at Palantir, one went on to be a very important early researcher at OpenAI. And then we built a number of other products, Gaia for the Special Operations Command. So the products that powered those news stories, Maven, which has changed the battlefield. And then later in commercial, Foundry, which many of you use, ontology, AIP, the idea that you would need orchestration to make large language models valuable. So how do you build value, not just have an AI market? How do you work downstream of that? FDEs as opposed to just handing you the product. And the way I think that Palantir is divergent from software Silicon Valley companies is that because we absorbed the value, and because actually we thought, obviously it's kind of obvious, but because we thought and knew the soldiers who were going to battle were more important than we were, which at the time did not take much. But I mean, morally, we built products and a whole culture, FDE, internal orchestration, how we prioritize things, how we learn about your specific use cases, how we really never try to become the expert or become your business. We want We literally do want your business to be the specific, enhance the specificity of it, make it the very best business in the world. We do not want you to be a commodity. We're not trying to, all these things that we built something that's quite radical. That's just not how Silicon Valley companies actually work. The job of a Silicon Valley software company is to take your revenue, its multiple, transfer it into their company and get a higher multiple, and buy you a steak dinner. That's the job. This is why analysts didn't like us. We couldn't get bankers to underwrite Palantir. I mean, part of the reason why I wanted to do a DPO is because instead of handing huge amounts of money, or as retail investors, meaning people investing their own money, call attendees, to bankers, I wanted to make sure that normal people participated. But it was also, bankers were like, wait a minute, you're selling a product where there's no automatic, the only lock-in is that you're going to create more value tomorrow than you did today, and that you're going to get paid downstream of value, and there's no sales force paying for golf and steak dinners, and the people we met that even try to do that are unpleasant. They were like, you're not going to make any money, and we sure as hell aren't going to make money. And those people, and honestly, they still hate us. I can't find a banker that likes me. I'm like, could you look at my bank account? Take a meeting with me, please. None of them will meet with me even today. It's like, I'm not. This is not hyperbolic. Like, you would think I'd be able to talk to any banker now. They're like, the door's closed everywhere. But because of those early moments, the formative moment of, we must create value for these people who are risking their lives. And it has to be productized to the point where you can use it in Afghanistan, in Iraq. We built this culture of, we're non-parasitic relationship. And I really value those people. And I hope that what you sense in our partnerships with you is that we actually really are, with Ontology, Foundry, AIP, and our FDs, we are aspiring to lift you, and that we only actually get rewarded over time where your business thrives. And by the way, this just makes being at Palantir a lot more fun, because for all the crazy things we do, and we do crazy things, we blew up a massive deployment in the US government because a general asked me to talk to somebody. I probably should have never done this. And was like, hey, I want to talk to your FDs about some of my great ideas. And of course, the people were like, no, that idea is stupid, but you're not smart enough to know how stupid it is. And so that set us back years. You can accuse us of a lot of things. The thing about Palantir, though, is we really are actually trying to supply software and LLM management in the form of Ontology that makes your business better. And that is a really cool thing, because you will, over time, grow to like us. And it's just much more fun on the inside. And so that's the fact that this is working like at a massive level of scale is actually even surprising to us. I would say we have many of the leaders of Palantir here. I don't think any of us thought it could work this well. Ted? Nope. I hope you have a great time. The other last, as a final note, the very confusing thing about this revolution is because the value is not in being a commodity, really the people who select and figure out a way to do it correctly are just going to do much better than the people who don't exert agency. And so the mere fact that we're finding ways to work together, and it's also country specific. I spent half my life in Germany, and no one's interested in this stuff in Germany right now. That's a huge problem. So with that, happy times. Very happy. I'm delighted you came here, and pretty cool place to have a get together. And take care.
Please welcome Chief Investment Officer at Healthpeak, Adam Mabry.
Good evening. Excited to be here, excited for our partnership with Palantir, and appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to you all and tell you a little bit about what we've been creating at Healthpeak. Before I get into that, let me tell you a little bit about our company. Healthpeak is a real estate investment company. We own and operate over 700 facilities across the United States, spanning life science, outpatient medical care, and seniors housing. Every day, hundreds of thousands of people go inside our facilities. It's nurses, it's patients, it's researchers. They're running clinical operations, they're doing life-saving research, they're delivering patient care. And our mission at Healthpeak is to make sure that we're the real estate partner of choice for all of these healthcare firms. Probably 18 to 24 months ago, we sat around at Healthpeak and realized we had a problem. We realized that technology wasn't enhancing what we were doing. Technology was holding us back. And so we asked ourselves, is there a way where we could utilize technology to build the best real estate investment management platform and further our mission to be the real estate partner of choice? We quickly realized to do that, we had to get our employees out from behind computer screens and out in front of our partners and our tenants. When we decided where we were going to engage with Palantir, we knew it had to be somewhere where we could improve a workflow that would make a real immediate difference. And so we chose accounting. I know accounting isn't the most exciting workflow you could choose, but I knew if we could nail accounting, we could probably literally do anything. And so we decided to dig in. And it's funny, when we dug in, we realized it wasn't just our accountants in corporate offices doing accounting work. Accounting was literally taking time for everybody, including the people on the front lines, our property managers. Our property managers live at the properties. That's where they do their day-to-day. And instead of being out serving those clinicians, serving our tenants, they were stuck behind computer screens doing accounting. And so we realized that was something we had to fix. We've gone through a lot of different processes that we've improved, but I want to give you one example of something that we improved just recently. Every single month at Healthpeak across our 700 properties, we have thousands of sub-meters that are generating data for us, recording how much energy utilization is going on in each suite. And every single month, our property managers have to take that data and they have to go take pictures of it and they have to upload it into a spreadsheet and they have to do calculations, they have to send it to accounting, they have comments, it comes back. It takes hours and hours of our property managers' time. It takes them away from our tenants and puts them behind a computer screen. We knew we needed to figure out how to fix it. So I want to go just a little behind the scenes and show you what we built. When we ultimately stepped back, we knew all you really needed to do was take a picture of a sub-meter. And if we could get that sub-meter picture in some information, we could do the whole process automatically. We didn't need all these people doing all these things, sending spreadsheets back and forth, doing calculations. We could have AIP and our ontology do the entire process, obviously flagging instances where there are issues or concerns. I want to jump into one of them where we noticed an issue. You can see this is basically just a picture of a sub-meter. It's a utility bill, and a lot of different items that the AIP is checking regarding the matching of those two items. The system knows everything. It knows how to apply the correct methodology. It knows how to get the correct dates and rates. It calculates the tenant's share of the expense. It creates the invoice. It runs it through accounting. It compares it to historical and projected amounts. And ultimately, it saves us a ton of time because instead of a property manager going through all these individual items, they're only looking at the things that were flagged. So they can get out from behind the desk and back in front of our tenants. That's been super exciting. We're very excited about what we're building in accounting, but honestly, we're more excited about what we're doing in 2026. This is where I think the platform can really come to life. Accounting was a building block. It provided the foundation of what we're trying to build, but the next step is to really create an operating system that connects everything in our company, our people, our buildings, our data. And to do that, we knew one of the things that we would have to do was go mobile. We decided that we needed to build an app to give our property managers and our team access to our ontology and our operating system wherever they are, whenever they need it. I want to walk you through one example of something we're building. Every day across all of our buildings, there's thousands and thousands of interactions happening. Our tenants are speaking with our property managers. They're having conversations about the quality of the space, about what they're trying to do. Sometimes it's complaints. And we asked ourselves, how do we capture all of that information? And so what we have here is basically our property manager going into a conversation and saying, hey, I just talked to the tenant. They have a big need. They need some new people. They're hiring a lot of people. And by the way, it's pretty hot in their office. We might need to adjust the AC. At that moment, our property manager doesn't have to go into some legacy CRM system. They don't have to jot it down in a notebook. They can literally just grab their phone, record a message, and it starts a chain reaction. This is what we're excited about. So at that moment, after they record it, it connects all the dots, and it not only records the note, it activates the process. The first one is to our leasing team. We're not waiting for our tenants to tell us they need more space. The system is actively monitoring our ontology, looking for key instances that could indicate a tenant and our partners need more space. In this case, more employees means more space. The system then looks at their current footprint, it analyzes their growth pattern, it looks at what's available in our buildings, and surfaces logical next steps that are fed to the team that they can then go act on. Second one was for the facilities, a separate action. The room was hot, notwithstanding the thermostat being wrong. The system can look at the HVAC history for that suite. It can identify whether there's been similar issues in the past, and it can read the information to determine the likely root cause and next step. For us, that's real leverage. It's the best people in the best buildings now supported by a system that amplifies their impact and the performance. Exciting part now, we have the information. Our engineers diagnose the issues. We can use our operating system to create real leverage. Not only can we look at that unit or that HVAC unit, we can look at every maintenance ticket across our company. We can look at energy consumption data, the age and warranty status of the equipment. And critically, because going back to the accounting piece, now we can look at all the costs we've incurred over time. We're able to then leverage our entire scale and start making capital allocation decisions informed by operational intelligence. We can create a future where every repair, every maintenance, every dollar spent across our entire portfolio can be informed, and it can help us deploy our capital better. The kind of operating model that we're building toward is unique. It's a platform that will learn from every interaction, and it raises the performance of everything we're doing, and ultimately gets back to our goal of delivering the best tenant experience for our partners. Through the automation, the nuance captured in this one phone call, this one interaction, generates a series of activities that then are acted upon. We're not waiting anymore for somebody to jot it down and to make sure it gets done. One simple conversation driving real, measurable results across the organization. As our portfolio grows, we're no longer limited by the number of people we have. We're now just limited by, we're not even limited by the technology. We can grow our portfolio without adding any incremental cost, and for us, that's very big. We're excited to have shown this to you guys today. We're excited about the transformation we're making at Healthpeak. We have an installation there in the back. We'd invite you to come join us and check it out when we're done. Thank you.
Please welcome Senior Vice President and Chief Transformation Officer at Tampa General Hospital, Dr. Peter Chang.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me here tonight. So excited to be here in this amazing venue. Thank you, Alex, for putting all of this together. Now, let's set the stage of what healthcare is, at least for Tampa General. We are a $4.5 billion organization in West Central Florida, so lots of great revenue, but we operate in the hospital at around a 1 to a 1.5% margin. So if we have a 2% Medicare cut this year, guess what happens when Medicare is about 40% of our payer base? Every year, the government has reductions on what they're reimbursing healthcare. Insurance companies are finding cruel and unusual ways to pay us less money. Labor is going up, and with tariffs, supplies and equipment is going up. So the only way that we can work ourselves out of this situation is to innovate. And I'll kind of ask a question out to the audience. What are the two last industries to innovate? I'll give you one, is healthcare. And the second is education, right? A teacher will get up in front of a classroom and teach one way, but each student may learn in a different way, and there's no way to customize how you're going to teach a student. And I translate the same thing over to medicine. There's no way that you could take 2 diabetic patients with the same numbers and treat them exactly the same way. So the mantra of pathway-based care is interesting, and I think it's evidence-based, but at the same point, we need to find a way to customize care for our patients, and that's what I'm going to show you later today. So what we have here are the 3 big pillars that we look at within our health system. We're trying to find a way to weave together clinical side, operational side, and finance, because the finance is so important to us, and the connective tissue that weaves through all of that. Today, we're going to focus in on the care navigation administrative view and take you through a patient journey of a patient by the name of Jane that unfortunately got admitted to the ICU. Now, if you've ever been in a hospital before, you realize that you give total control away, right? That's the number one thing you lose in a hospital. And so what you're seeing now is a live feed. Think about it almost like an X feed for a physician. So as things are happening throughout the hospital, you're getting notifications of what's going on. The information is coming to find you versus me having to go back into our EMR and check on data. So Jane's had a CT of her chest, a CAT scan, she's had blood cultures, she's diagnosed with sepsis. Oh, by the way, we use a Palantir algorithm to pick sepsis up earlier and get a patient on a treatment pathway. What it's resulted in is a 68% reduction in 48-hour mortality. So within 2 days, is this patient still with us or not? In the last 2 years, that's resulted in 700 additional patients being able to leave the hospital versus how we operated before. Hospitals around the country get sepsis right about 20 to 30% of the time. So how would you like to be a patient walking into that scenario? So in this example, we're actually walking through where a pulmonology clearance is given, an ID clearance is given, the patient meets downgrade criteria out of the ICU because they've responded well to the antibiotics. We know that by the feed over on the side, and the patient's getting ready to move on to the next stage of the care. You have an AIP reader that's looking over the notes and actually suggesting the next best pathway, which is to downgrade the patient from the ICU. As we start moving on, we'll make the recommendation that now the patient can be downgraded out of the ICU, but we have a problem here because now the patient still needs IV antibiotics, and that IV antibiotic course is going to be an additional 4 days in the hospital outside of the ICU. So it adds an additional 4 days to our length of stay, taking a bed away from another patient. Luckily, we have AIP reading the chart and recommending hospital at home. So what that is the ability to take the hospital-based care and actually take it out and mobilize it to the patient's home and get the patient moving out of the hospital. So it's running an eligibility in the background that says consider hospital at home. So as a physician, I don't need to remember, does this patient live close enough to the hospital? What is their payer? Because only certain payers cover hospital at home at this point in time. And then again, being able to enroll that patient into the hospital at home program easily. So I can go ahead and look at my criteria. I can see my milestones have been met for IV antibiotics, downgrade out of the ICU, where the patient lives, what their payer is, and I'm moving on to the next step, which is getting this patient enrolled into the hospital at home program. So as that happens, you'll see AIP is helping out create the referral order, get that placed out to that team so they can get ready to enroll that patient next into the system. As you move on here, this gives the patient view of the pain of all the little things that happen during admission, a lab result, an imaging result, diagnostics, infusions, nursing orders, procedure. And imagine being able, the dream is, if we reach such a high level of automation, could we get to the point where we have a digital screen at the foot of the bed actually delivering a message to the patient saying between the hours of 9 and 10, your physician will be by to round. Between the hours of 11 to 12, you're going to get a CAT scan. The result will be back in the afternoon, and your physician will be back to discuss the results. Versus sitting in the bed and looking at this clock that I'm looking at right now. It's like the 24 clock, second by second, drifting away as you're sitting in the bed wondering what's going to happen to me next. Now, the most exciting piece for this this is underway right now. We're about halfway through the build. The proof of concept of all the pieces that got us to where we are right now have all been successful, but this is just such a small slice of the patient care journey from an inpatient perspective. The dream of this is being able to apply it outside the walls of the hospital. So how can I take a breast cancer patient that's going to need an MRI, a PET scan, a port, radiation oncology consult, a chair time in chemotherapy, and a surgical consult, and be able to plan around the patient's life? That's a mom. She maybe has to pick up her kids. We don't ask her, like, hey, what are you doing? We say, we have an appointment at 2:30. And in her head, she's thinking, that's the time I need to pick up my kids. Who's going to pick up my kids if I have to come and get a treatment? So really being able to take this operational concept, the clinical flow, and get a patient from, okay, we're unfortunately diagnosing you with a cancer, to the point where I have you in a treatment pathway in a shorter period of time, resulting in hopefully a better outcome and a happier patient. It's been such a pleasure to share a little bit about our healthcare journey at Tampa General with you all tonight. Big thanks to David Yu. David is our Palantir FDSE, who really helps us with all of our engineering activities, and it's such a big part, as Alex talked about. That person that gets to know your organization is like nothing else, and it becomes more of a friendship versus a vendor-client relationship. So thanks again, and it's a great time talking to you tonight.
Please welcome Senior Director, Commercial Growth and PMO Lead at Johnson Controls, Gabriel Dornbach.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gabriel Dornbach, and I lead the Growth Commercial PMO for Johnson Controls in EMEA. And I'm joining you today from beautiful Switzerland, and I want to show you how we are reshaping our 140-year-old company. So we are a world leader for smart buildings. That means that we create safe, healthy, and sustainable places. And our customers are commercial and industrial building owners and operators. Think of offices, hotels, data centers, schools, universities, and airports. And many of those are truly mission critical to society. And actually, because of this pretty iconic location here, we are also a key supplier to the US Navy. So we provide HVAC, fire, and security solutions to ships like this. It also happens that we have the world's largest portfolio in building technologies. And with that comes a lot of complexity. So what you see in the backend is our enterprise operating system. You can see that the agent is running, is mapping data, is adding location IDs together with assets. Another agent is crafting a value proposition for that specific asset. And this automation of our lifecycle covers literally everything from production to installation to maintenance. And the actual power of this is automation first. So we actually reimagine the way we do the process so that it adapts to automation first. And what you see on top is the key metrics that we care about. And they're actually very simple. The first one is the dollar value we generate with this. The second one, and that is a crucial one for us, it's the conversion rate from lead to opportunity. And it really shows the quality and the effectiveness of everything we do. The third one is the number of leads you can see. So it's 180,000. But actually, that's the two-folded numbers. So one thing we do is we create leads looking into the history, interactions with our customers that have not happened. But the second thing we do is we actually create leads looking into the future. So in other words, what we have here is the key to build the future pipeline for our salespeople. And in only 18 months, we have actually increased with this project our lead to opportunity conversion rate by 5x. And now I want to show you how we have digitalized the lifecycle. So it all starts with mapping the data. You see about 200 data sources, ERPs, service tools, SaaS tools. It all comes into one place. We have the entire region mapped out. And the reason why we do this is because we need to make the data visible, to make it accessible, and then usable. So we dive into it, and what you see is the accessible part of the data. So we have our deployed items, our customer contracts, we have addresses, locations, LNMs, it's all there. And on the far right, you have the agents, which are grabbing the clean, structured data, and they use that to automate the process. Now, how do we identify those leads? Well, on the left, you see that we take all our product lifecycle knowledge and we code it into Foundry. So we have an example here of a fire panel that has no maintenance contract. So there's an upsell opportunity. We can ask also Foundry questions like, show me the customers that have smoke detectors which are obsolete, because we want to replace them. I can ask Foundry, make me a campaign of all the customers that have a license, a software license, which needs an upgrade, so I can sell them an upgrade. And we also partner with our salespeople. And that's actually really crucial, because if you think of our salespeople, they have 20, 30, 40 years of experience. At some point, they leave the company, they retire, they change positions. And we take all that knowledge and we make actionable rules out of it. And that's actually critical to us, because this tribal knowledge is this way preserved and we can leverage across the entire organization. What is even more powerful is because we can decide the type of leads we want our salespeople to focus on. We tell the system, focus on deals with the higher margins, or we can tell the system, focus on deals that have more volume. And we can predict for every single lead the individual customer conversion rate. That's like a remote control for your business, because you steer the business into the direction you want to. And through that engine, we have encoded over 100,000 leads at this point. Now, if I dive into one lead, I can see that AIP has already mapped out the 7 steps fully automatically. It has mapped the individual asset. It has understood the customer journey. It makes sense of some kind of physical evidence. A service technician that was on site took pictures. The pictures go into the ontology. Again, this circular process is starting. The data is being reused. And AIP has now generated an individual value proposition. And we want to ship that lead to a seller. But AIP is pausing and is asking a human operator to interact. Because AIP has understood that there's a specific customer situation where we have one customer with 2 buildings. In one building, we have a chiller with a maintenance contract. In the next building, we have a security device. There is no maintenance contract. So now AIP is giving the human operator the chance to say, hey, don't you want to give him a special condition, a special offer, so that actually this second device that has no maintenance contract will be packaged in the first maintenance contract? It's better for the business, it's better for the customer. The operator takes the information, keys it in, and sends it out. The system will select the best sales channel to execute the lead. Account managers, inside sales, service technicians. And every technician is becoming a trusted advisor for our customers. So they do not just longer maintain equipment, they are actually now proactive. They are predictive. So they come to the customer and say, hey, Mr. Customer, I'm here for my routine maintenance, but actually my iPad is showing me that your building is in critical conditions because of a couple of assets. Let me walk you through that. That's the type of conversation we want to have with our customers. And it is really exciting to see that once you have all this data mapped out, there's really no limit to anything, okay? So we have deployed this same human AI partnering across the entire organization now. We are doing it in procurement. We have AIP that is scanning spending patterns and surfacing cost opportunities, cost-saving opportunities throughout the organization. We are picking those opportunities and we are driving them into an automated RFQ workflow end-to-end. And it is really incredible to see that you can transform a 140-year-old company with the power of AI. Thank you.
Please welcome from R1, Executive Vice President and Chief Product Officer, Steve Albert, and Senior Vice President Engineering, R37, John Katzer.
Hey everybody, I'm Steve. This is John. We're from R1. And it was very nice of Peter to tee up earlier the challenge that health systems have, especially from a margin perspective. Stepping back even further, in the US, the health systems spend $740 billion across all the systems just to collect the reimbursement that they're owed for the care they provide patients. That's office and administrative burden. It's manual processes, it's paperwork, it's phone calls, it's handing off work from team to team. And that can cost almost 4% of the revenue that they pull in. Compared to other industries, it's one of the highest percentages that there is. So we at R1, we're in the middle of this problem. We serve health systems. We have over 500 clients. We serve 95 of the top 100 health systems and help them to address this problem. We've been doing this for 20 years. For 8 of those clients, we run their entire revenue cycle. And for the rest of those clients, we provide them on average about 4 solutions. And over those 20 years, we've developed a tremendous amount of intelligence, best practice processes, rules engines, and with the AI revolution that's happening at the beginning of this year, we decided we needed to take a fundamentally different approach, and we've been embedding that intelligence in what we call a revenue operating system. We call it FAIR-OS. The revenue operating system is aimed at comprehensively automating complex processes to accelerate reimbursement and to make it as accurate as possible. And importantly, it's an interconnected system that is aimed at not just resolving problems, but preventing them in the first place.
Oh, okay. So denials represent a huge administrative burden in healthcare. We know at R1 that 9% of claims will be first pass denied. After weeks of administrative back and forth, phone calls, gathering evidence, clinicians going back and forth, you'll end up with only a small fraction will actually stay denied. And so to address that administrative burden, we've built the FAIR-OS, a revenue cycle operating system. It's completely agentic. The system starts with the triage and orchestration agent that takes in all the data that a payer provides, clinical records, combine it, and routes any potential denial to a specialized agent that knows how to address and solve that problem. Could be an eligibility, auth, denial, and that agent is the specialist that knows how to go through and solve it. Let's look at an example of a completed denial that was processed. So here's the completed account where the payer requested additional information. The triage agent received the information and routed to a specialized lax info agent. That agent got to work, reading the medical record, looking at the denial, which explained what information was needed, looking through the ontology, and identifying all the information the payer needs. The agent then gathered the required documentation together into a cohesive packet ready to send, and actually sent it to the payer, completely automatically. In this case, this is completely resolved without human intervention at all. This is a process that would typically take about 20 to 40 minutes for a person to just look through everything, try to understand what's going on, and collect the packet and send it through. This is agent orchestration, the right agent working on the right problem at the right time. Next, let's take a look at an in-progress case requiring an appeal. In this case, the triage agent identified the denial and routed to an appeals agent, which gathers clinical documentation, researches the payer's denial rationale, and drafts an appeal letter. Here's where human and AI collaboration becomes critical. Appeals require clinical judgment, so the agent surfaces a recommendation for a specialist to review and refine. It's not replacing humans, it empowers them. The agent handles the tedious work of gathering all this data so the specialist can focus on the high-value decision. This is a model we believe translates across industries. AI handles volumes and the complexity of big data, and humans provide judgment and expertise. Zooming out, these are all examples of just one workflow each, but behind this is a system of agents that constantly are working in parallel across thousands of accounts, each managed by an appropriate agent, with human oversight where it matters most. What makes this all possible is the unified ontology, connecting clinical data, claims data, payer rules, and appeals history together, along with the final outcome. So when agents hand off work, they pass the full context. The triage agent makes sure the LaxInfo agent sees what's been tried before, what documentation was submitted, and what the payer requires. And critically, every decision, every action that got taken by humans and AI, and all the decision and final outcome makes it back to the ontology. So our agents get smarter over time. So you can imagine a LaxInfo agent learning what works for specific payers, denial types, and hospital systems.
Great, so John showed you it's great that the system can autonomously resolve problems or denials when they happen, but I mentioned it's an interconnected system, and it's even better to prevent the problems from happening in the first place. So what you're seeing now is the denial prevention part of the FAIR operating system. So this is where we have agents that are monitoring payer policy changes, and they're also monitoring denial trends and actual payer behaviors from denials that we've seen in the past. And the agent had made a recommendation, has come up with an idea for some logic that should be implemented to prevent denials on claims going out in the future. It came up with a back test. It actually looked at claims that have been previously submitted and estimated that we could resolve almost all of the denials. We could prevent them from happening in the first place, and it would reduce the amount of work by about 75% and accelerate the time to payment by about 2x. It did this is like a look behind the scenes, but it did this with full access to the ontology and all the tools that are available, and it actually wrote all the Python code that can be implemented into production. We have a human in the loop looking at this right now just for validation, but over time, as we get more confident, we can imagine this being fully agentic. So hopefully that gives you a sense of what we're building here. You know, we view ourselves at R1 that we've been pioneering revenue cycle technology for a long time. Workflow, rules engines, machine learning, robotic process automation. But to us, this is the most excited we've ever been because this can achieve a vision of comprehensive automation with AI that we think can really benefit and lower the cost of administrative costs for the entire system that can benefit not just our customers, providers, but also for payers and patients. Thanks a lot.
Please welcome AI lead at Thompson Cavanaugh Construction, Joe Petrall.
Hi, everyone. My name is Joe Petrall. I lead the foundry development team at Cavanaugh Construction. We're a vertically integrated, heavy civil construction company in Ottawa, Canada. We build roads, sewers, subdivisions, homes. We produce our own asphalt, aggregates, and concrete. We run hundreds of pieces of heavy equipment and trucks every day. I'm just so excited to get to share with you guys our unique approach to Palantir Foundry. As the company grew over 70 years, so did our systems. Each solving a problem, but together created an even bigger one: complexity. We were bending our business to work with off-the-shelf software and feeling diseconomies of scale that come with it. We needed a change. Enter Palantir. So as we began our Foundry journey, every system we connected to highlighted the same thing. This doesn't work the way our business works, and it would be so much easier if we just built it in Foundry. So we started asking the question, why don't we just build it in Foundry? So long story short, we've gone all in, so much so that every other software must justify its existence. And so far, they haven't been able to. 97% of our employees use Foundry every day. Foundry is our operating system. So what does this look like? We picked a few simple examples to demonstrate how information flows through the ontology, workflow to workflow, powering our day-to-day operations. Here you can see our homepage. We've named the system Total Operations Management, or TOM, to honor the company's founder, Tom Cavanaugh. We'll navigate here to Global Schedule. This is our scheduling tool that's replaced everything else. P6, Microsoft Project, spreadsheets, all of it. You can imagine keeping all those previous tools in sync was a ton of work, and of course, led to errors. Now we have one plan, one schedule, one source of truth for all our operations in one place. Move an activity, and every team knows instantly. And what looks like just a simple puck on the screen is actually packed with information underneath. Contract items, production rates, mixed designs, trucking requirements, and budgets, all because of the underlying ontology. I was a scheduler for 6 years, and no one has successfully run operations from a critical path schedule, but we've solved it. For the first time, the information flows to the field, and the field executes on the same information. Next, we have Kavanaugh Connect. This is our OSDK app published in the app stores, powered by Foundry. You can see we've got a simple news feed. We can now reach every employee wherever they are. You can imagine this is extremely powerful. Next, you can see an example of an employee submitting a time card. All employees now have access to the news feed, time cards, support from HR, payroll, and IT right on their phone, in their pocket. And just 6 months ago, this was all done on paper. Thousands and thousands of pieces of paper handled every pay period. Foundry saved us hours and hours, eliminating the handling and administration of those paper time cards. Next, Site 360. This is a Foundry mobile workshop that's replaced our legacy field time capture app. This is where the foreman's day comes together. Time cards land here automatically from Kavanaugh Connect. Foremen manage production, labor, approve equipment, order trucks, manage their crews, all from their phones. And because the planned data flows to them, they only have to fill in the gaps. What used to take hours now only takes 10 minutes because the work and the data move as one through the ontology. And lastly, this is Site 360 Manager. This is where all the field information flows back into the office. Daily reports, production, labor, equipment, costing, all in one place for managers to review and approve in real time. Whether it's our mobile app, Site 360, or global schedule, we're meeting the users where they are. Again, these workflows are simple, and that's the point. By eliminating the third-party software we used to use, we've removed so much complexity from our business. No more paper, no more silos. And as we zoom out, you start to see the real breadth of our system. These tiles represent the tools we use to run our operations every day. From the contracts that define the work to the resources we perform that work with, labor, equipment, materials, they're all managed inside Foundry, meaning they're fully connected. And when we say one operating system, it doesn't mean we're forcing our users to conform. It's the opposite. Foundry gives us the flexibility to build the way we want, empowering our operations. And finally, the engine that powers it all, the ontology. It looks complicated, but in reality, it's just big. It's big because it's the digital representation of our business. Every employee, every truck, every piece of equipment, every job is in here. You can imagine how hard this was to maintain with our legacy siloed systems. Every line you see here represents what used to be a phone call, an email, a text, or someone driving paper around a job site. Historically, collecting this data was hard work, unfairly punishing operations. But when you build this way, collecting the data stops being work and becomes an output we call for free, just by doing the job. And what you're looking at on the screen is our data. On the left, objects in the middle, and workshops on the right. The ontology is the secret weapon. Nothing else comes close. And not only are we getting rid of third-party software, we're actually eclipsing their development. We've replaced their functionality and then beaten them to new features, all within the year because of the ontology. And so, we're honored to show publicly for the first time AIP Analyst. We're now able to ask plain language questions about our business and have AI reason through the ontology to find the answers. We're already making real-time decisions on information that was previously incredibly difficult to get and took ages to compile. So here, I'm asking analysts a simple question about our fleet. Which vehicle requires my attention? This isn't a demo, this is our real data. And you'll see analyst finds the truck objects, the inspection logs, the maintenance records, even fault codes, all by following the relationships in the ontology. And so it comes back with 8 trucks in repair, 3 with active faults, and it appears some licenses are out of date. So 6 months ago, this would have taken ages to compile. But because of the ontology and AIP analysts, we know in minutes. And so while I know these licenses aren't out of date, I asked our fleet manager. What it's actually telling us is we haven't updated this information, highlighting something really, really cool about Foundry. You don't have to wait until your data is clean to use Foundry. Use Foundry to clean your data. So, in closing, we've gone from paper to Palantir in just under 12 months by replacing disconnected systems with Foundry. Today, real operations run end-to-end through the ontology, which is why we're seeing the emergence of AI in our operations. We are going to be the first construction company to have true operational AI. We didn't just bring Foundry into our business, we put our business in Foundry. And we're going to prove that you can run your business with nothing but. We're planning for the long term, and we're excited to announce that we're partnering with Palantir to commercialize these solutions across the industry. Together with Palantir, we're raising the ceiling for construction, and with it, the floor. The fastest route to operational AI is to run your business through it. Go all in. Thank you so much for your time.
Please welcome Head of Corporate Development at Palantir, Sasha Spivak.
Another round of applause for our speakers. I want to talk a little bit about one of the biggest things I've learned at Palantir over the last 10 years, which is trust. I have a mechanical engineering background and was hired as a writer, a job I was absolutely unqualified for. In fact, in my hiring thesis, it quite literally said weaknesses writing. And when I landed and was doing the job that I was obviously never going to be good at, I got my first dose of what it means to trust. I had to trust that the team, and specifically the person who took a bet on me, saw something. I had to trust that they believed that I would see something. Many years later, when we were going public, and I took a moment to reflect on the gravity of the thing that I got to be working on and the people that I was doing that with, and I had another realization. I said, excuse my language, who fucked up and trusted me with what I'm currently doing and who I'm doing it with? And that was sort of my second lesson on trust. It was like, no one fucked up. They trusted me, and so I had to trust them. And then later came a third form of trust, the kind where, Alex frequently has these ideas where you just have to believe until you see that they come true every single time, like his most recent one, which was, we have to hire kids out of high school who, when they look at a college campus, see a woke education an unsafe place to be. And you just have to trust. And instead of just going with it, you have to commit to it until you manifest that reality into existence. And today, I'm reminded of the fourth form of trust, which is being with all of you in this room. And that's the trust of being with family. We ask you to trust us with really unbearably high missions, and we trust you with those as well. So I feel very grateful, very humbled, very proud to be in a room with people that we trust implicitly, and it is incredible to be trusted with the same thing.